Welcome back, guys, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And today we have the episode 5 of the CFL Central podcast and a very special episode with our special guest, Dean Faithfull, the kicker for the Edmonton Elks. Thank you so much for coming on, Dean.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where we're grateful anytime, especially during the season, anyone who's willing to, come on and kind of take the time to do. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
There you go. So, yeah. So one interesting thing that we have, I guess, to get started, and this is kind of something that we kind of like to ask everyone that comes on is what got you into football?
Yeah, I've got a different story, an interesting story, really. To be honest, by accident. It was kind of a few years ago, coming up to 3 years ago. My old soccer coach actually mentioned to me over lunch in Florida. He said, "Hey, you interested in being a kicker?" And I kind of laughed at him at the time. I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" He said, "Well, Florida Tech need a kicker." The coach had just texted him that moment saying, "Do you have any ex-soccer guys that would be interested?" And the coach said, "You'd be good." And I said, "Well, sure, I'm interested, but." And anyway, I had a flight to London the next day, but the coach from Florida Tech had said, "Well, we'd like to give Dean a tryout tomorrow. Is he interested?"
Oh my goodness. So you just had no time.
So yeah, no, honestly, and I thought about it. I changed my flight. Me being me, I'm like, why not just see where this opportunity goes? And to be honest with you, I was on YouTube the night before and looking up how to kick footballs.
So had you ever kicked a football in your life up to then?
No.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
No, never. Just always played soccer. And, I'd watched the game and being in America for 4 years at Florida Tech, I'd been to Super Bowl parties and, I'd seen stuff on TV, but never really, had an opportunity to play it. And so, long story short, I had a tryout that next day.
Wow.
And the coach just had me kicking a few kickoffs. I boomed him over his head, so he was kind of surprised how well I could kick it, albeit it was probably very soccer sort of technique. Hit a few field goals, again, probably very different to how I hit them now. And by the time we got back to his office, he had offered me a scholarship. So
oh my
he
goodness.
said, "Look, we can teach you the rest. We'd love you to come back in the fall." And long story short, I ended up at Colorado State University Pueblo instead of Florida Tech.
Wow.
So because Florida Tech had cancelled their program during the summer during COVID,
I see.
It was just before that COVID time. So, I got that email that Florida Tech had cancelled and thought, well, maybe that's my opportunity to play football gone. But by this point, I had been training myself. I bought a couple of balls on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I went out to rugby fields in England and I just kicked every day. I bought a tripod. I watched footage of professionals and I just tried to copy it and learn as much as I could and kicked until eventually I could fly to Colorado, who had made me an offer after Florida Tech fell through. And then, I was on a plane to Colorado that August of 2020.
Yeah, I gotta say that's kind of incredible in the fact that, you get offered a chance to try, I guess, a sport that you wouldn't have ever played in your life, given one day have to change a flight to that where you're probably going to be heading home. And then it was literally just one day and they offered you the scholarship in a day.
It was
That's
within
crazy.
hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it was within hours. I had the tryout, which took about 20 minutes. And then we walked back to his office and he was like, "Yep. Yeah, I know, it's crazy." He's like, "Yep, seen enough." And I think just the leg power was probably what caught his attention, the ability just to kick in general. And like I said, he said, "I can teach you the rest." And the rest is history, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, like, especially if he knew that you had never kicked a ball, and you're like, okay, well, this is like the starting point for this guy. Like, that's got to be, I guess, an exciting thing. And it kind of reminds me of we had done an interview I think earlier this year with the long snapper of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Gordon White, and he was talking about how it wasn't until his first season with the Ticats that he got any sort of professional training or any training whatsoever on long snapping. And so I just kind of find it how interesting, especially when because I played a little bit of football in high school, with how guys are just seemingly thrown into positions and they sink or swim. I mean, in terms of you had a day, 20 minutes, and you got a scholarship in 20 minutes. So congrats to you.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, and very grateful. Like for the opportunity. It all kind of fell together at that point. I was 33 at that point, and now I'm 36. But even at the time at 33, I was thinking, God, like, who's gonna give? Like, why would someone give me an opportunity? But I suppose I kept myself in good shape. I feel like I don't look too old. I keep myself. I've always wanted to be athletic, so I was almost ready for that moment that I didn't know was going to come, and it did. I just feel grateful that I got the opportunity.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your time leading up to that. So obviously up to that, I'm assuming grown up playing soccer and whatnot, and you had gone on to play college soccer. So what would you describe your time playing college soccer in the United States?
Yeah, some of the best years of my life, to be honest. That 4 years, in my early 20s, and all I knew at that point was soccer. I'd grown up doing a bit of boxing. Dad wanted us to be boxers, but other than that, all I knew was soccer, and the opportunity to play in Florida, be near the beach, and then get an education was priceless for me. So yeah, really, really great experience. And then following Florida Tech, I got to go on and play a bit of professional soccer too, and semi-professional around the world. So that led to some good things too.
There you go.
So I actually have a question now. So with you being from England, this is kind of like a Europe question. How
Yeah.
does like someone from Europe, and I'll just use you as an example, get noticed by like a college or university in US?
Well, in the soccer world, it's becoming more and more popular. Back then it's 2007. I went to Florida Tech. There was coaches looking in Europe, but it was hard to get noticed. But my college in England, so we have secondary school until we're 16, and then what we do is we can either go on and work and become a plumber or a carpenter or some sort of trade, or you go to what we call college, which is your last 2 years of what I think would be your equivalent of high school. The last 2 years, 16
Okay,
to yeah,
so that's
16.
like 11 to 12, grade 11s to 12.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
correct.
okay.
But you leave the school you're at and you go to another college and specify in a couple of subjects. So I went
Oh, that
to
sounds nice.
Taunton. Yeah, it was cool. I went to Taunton's college and did sports performance as a course and biology. And our soccer team was one of the best in the area. And they were sending people, they had a connection with McKendree College in Illinois. So there was already a kind of connection where they were sending English players to Illinois. But again, me being me, I was interested in that, and my coach had said this would be great for you. But I was thinking, well, there has to be something else. Like, surely just not Illinois. I have to
Yeah.
explore other options. So I went to America for 3 months with a coaching company, coaching soccer, and I went all around. I was in Michigan, California, and ended up in Florida. And Florida Tech was one of the schools near where I was coaching, and had got a connection with the coach, and then sent some film, and it went from there. Most of the time it's about having good film on tape, and then you send it to as many college coaches as you can, and hope
Hope
that
for the
somebody
best.
bites. Yeah, and there are like scholarship companies out there now which help you with that process and will
Yep.
connect you to coaches. But back then it was all about you just had to connect with as many as you can and hope that somebody
Yeah.
bites.
And
Florida
I
Tech,
oh, my apologies. No, I
yeah,
want to let you finish.
that was it. No, Florida Tech, bit, and it was an easy decision to go there.
No, absolutely. And I have to imagine that that's got to be a bit different than back, now as opposed to back in 2007, where it probably, I have to imagine, especially with, soccer being a lot larger in the United States now than it was back then. And the fact that there's getting YouTube and footage and getting stuff out there is a lot more of a thing than it is now. Than it was then, sorry. And so I have to imagine that's, I guess a bit of a difference nowadays as opposed to back then. So when it comes to college, and this is kind of an interesting thing about college sports, is how do you juggle your school schedule with like your football or even just your sports schedule in general, whether that was football or soccer in college?
It's a lot. You have to be organized and be dedicated to the sport because that takes up a lot of your time. And I'll be honest, for me, it was my priority. I look back now and I think if I was to give advice to my younger self, I'd say, your degree is a priority, get your education, and soccer supplements that. But I went there for soccer and I was just all about training, all about in the gym. So I made that a priority. But yeah, a typical day, you could be up at 5 a.m., you have a gym workout, then you do a bit of treatment, then you're straight into classes at 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. Then you've got practice till 6 p.m. And then you try and fit some homework in, eat some food and go to bed before you do it again. That's a typical day. And then you'll have meetings in between. So
yeah,
I think in the sports world, wherever your coach can take your time, they do. They fit your class in. Yeah, you go to class, but in your time off, you're usually doing something sport related. But I love that. Kept me busy, kept me out of trouble, kept me doing too much partying because I've concentrated on my sport. So it's tough, but it's a busy schedule. But I loved it.
There you go.
So my question to you, Dean, is with you playing in Trinidad and Belgium and all of that out of college, what would you say your advice for like someone coming out of college or university that you could pass them off, like going into like professional sports? So like, for example, up here we have like where you come out of university, like say you get drafted by the CFL and you're just coming out of university and you've never played professional sports before. What type of advice would you have for them?
Be resilient. Be resilient and persevere because it's hard, right? And I think I was talking to someone about this yesterday about the culture difference in the UK and say the US, and it'd be interesting to see what you guys say on Canada. But I think there's an attitude in the UK of you probably can't do that. It's probably going to be too difficult. Whereas the US is like, you can do anything, right? There's that two attitudes. You can be president, you can be a professional. And so I would say take that attitude over the negative one.
Yeah.
And don't let anyone stand in your way. It's a case of working hard, knocking as many doors as possible. Because if you're not one of these kids who are number one in the country or you're not recognized, you're going to have to get yourself out there somehow. And that's going to be making film. It's going to be willing to move abroad if you need to. And that's what I took. I knew, okay, I might not go play professionally in the Premier League in England, right? That might not be my level. But can I go play in Australia? Probably. Can I, these other countries, Costa Rica, Belgium, there's opportunities out there. You just have to make the most of them. So that would be my advice really, is just persevere and don't turn down any opportunities that might lead you to somewhere else. Obviously, it's difficult, and it'd be interesting to see what you guys say on Canada and the attitude. Do you think there's a can-do attitude for athletes, or it's more like you're probably not going to go pro, so go get a job? Which one is it?
I'd say it's kind of both. I think it honestly depends more on the sport here, as I find it's easy, I guess, with hockey and how huge hockey is in Canada for it to be like, well, there's so many hockey players here, hockey gets so competitive here that there is a bit of that of an attitude that, like, if you're not if you're not playing AAA by 15, then, you know, you're left in the dust, kind of. So there's kind of that with that. But I find that with football, it's a bit different. Where with football, you know, because the college atmosphere and because college football in Canada doesn't have the same pressure that it has in the United States. I mean, we're talking about like 10,000 people showing up at most compared to like 100,000 down in the United States. So yeah. I feel like, at least from especially people I know who have played college in Canada for football, that there hasn't been as much pressure in that regard. And that's kind of allowed them to focus less on the negativity and more on just them kind of, you know, practicing their craft and practicing their game.
And one thing that I will add on to that is Dean, I don't know how much you follow in the US and that, but like in the US, they say, okay, well, you have to be like a certain like build or height. There's been players in the CFL, and I kid you not, they're like 5'7", 150 pounds. Like they look like they're like just young kids coming out of high school, and they're actual professional football players. So in the CFL, it's not like you have to be like a certain build or a certain height. You could be 5'9" and, you know, 140 pounds and have speed like the wind. That's honestly what I like about the football up here, is that there's nothing that can stop you when it comes to, you know, as long as you're a good football player, then.
And you're working hard,
I guess. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And like, to add to what I was saying, I think I've always admitted this. I have some sort of level of delusion in my brain of what I can achieve and how good I am at things. And like, no matter what people tell me, I don't listen to them. So like, I think I'm good enough to do something, I can do it. And that, admittedly, it's delusional, but it's the only way I think that you could have an opportunity. If you have the other attitude and you say, you know, I can't do this, and you listen to everyone else, well, they say I'm not good enough, then there's no way you're going to make it. But if you have that attitude that you think you can, then you just might. The chances are you probably won't, but you just might. And like, I suppose I am an example of that delusion that eventually can get you somewhere if you have a bit of talent, you know?
Well, it's not delusion, because I mean, here you are. And, you know, speaking of which, what were like, that's like excellent advice. I hope everyone watching just hold on to that. What were your emotions when you were selected with the second overall pick in the 2023 global draft by the Edmonton Elks?
Speechless, to be honest. I'd worked so hard to get to that point. I'd set myself a goal of perhaps achieving the CFL as a goal, and I'd been working all year, kicking and training and just hoping for an opportunity and saving money so I could attend tryouts. And that's how I got to LA to the Edmonton Elks tryout. I saved money and then stayed in a hostel. And so there'd been a lot of sacrifice. And then I look back at like the sacrifice I've made, not being in England, being away from my family, which are, you know, that are very important to me. Absolutely. You know, I've got nephews, so I'm Uncle Dean back home. And so that always motivated me to do well. And when I got that phone call, it's kind of all those emotions came together as like, it's finally been worth it. Like I have an opportunity. And I was so happy. I remember I was calm on the phone, and I sounded nowhere near as excited as I was. I was very calm and sort of said thank you to coach, and, you know, so thankful for that phone call. But as soon as I hung up, I was jumping around the living room, punching the air like a crazy man, because it just felt like, okay, well, everything I'd worked for, I've now got an opportunity to go show it. And so, yeah, just Absolutely. Pure happiness at that point, pure happiness. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, it's funny because we have this one written down. I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And I got to ask, so what has been in your eyes, your best moment so far of the 2023 season?
Yeah, I think you know it. Obviously, the game winner.
Yep, that was it. Yep.
The game winner is unbelievable moment. Again, just like having had the start we had, you know, feeling the sort of mood from the fans and just wanting to perform for them and wanting to give them something to cheer for. And we'd got our win before that, but that was just such a great moment because they don't always come around, and for it to come around in my first season in the CFL and against a rival team in front of a big crowd in Edmonton was just really special, and a day I won't forget. And especially for the boys that have been in Edmonton a while, some of the players that have gone through these tough times, like I was happy for them too, and then happy for the fans that have stuck around and supported us. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that was probably my most exciting moment, and to be in a pressure moment like that and perform in that moment also just makes me really proud of myself too. So that
Hell
was
yeah. As
yeah.
you should be, as you should be, and I gotta say, I love because I remember seeing everything that happened after the game. I think they were playing "God Save the King" when you're in the dressing room. I think I saw that on
Yeah,
on Instagram,
yeah. They
which was
were.
nice.
That was while TSM were like interviewing me too, and they were playing it in the background. It was funny.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, good moment.
And I guess that kind of leads into this next one we had was that, how was your relationship with your teammates evolved since joining the Elks as a rookie?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely evolved. It's taken time, I think, and that's true in any kicking position. Any kicker, will probably, new kicker to a team, you are a separate position in so many ways, and you go off and do your own job, and it's a very specialized position. So it does take time to gel with your team.
Yep.
And I think the best way you can do that is obviously perform in practice, one, but once you can perform in games and help them win in big moments like I did, I think you gain a bit of respect. And I've said it before to other people, it's like the best way I can respect those boys is by doing my job, and
Yep.
so since then, I think, yeah, we've got a great relationship in the changing room, and I feel like the boys appreciate me, and I really appreciate them. So yeah, it's obviously grown over the season, and it
Of course.
helps with winning games. That everybody gets along and becomes closer. Um, but we're a really close group, and I think that's evident in our last few games. And the reason why we've been able to bounce back and get a few good results is because we're such a close knit group. So
Well,
yeah, really appreciate the boys.
Well, yeah, and that was something I kind of noticed of the wins you guys were getting. As there's, I mean, we've seen some games in this season with some teams where they're maybe there's a few star players and they were able to win on that. But one thing I noticed with you guys is that when you guys win, it was very much a conjoined group win. It was everyone was on the same page. It really felt like I could tell just by watching that you guys did look like a closely knit group. And I have to imagine, with not, I guess, having the ideal start, that probably brings you guys together. But an interesting question I do have is, I guess as a kicker, do you have like a lucky pair of cleats? Or is there any kind of superstition you have? Because I have to imagine in kind of like a high stress position like that where maybe some sort of superstition.
I mean, yeah, I have my game day routines that I like to do and just keep things consistent. I don't have too many superstitions because I believe that if you're put in a different situation, you don't want to be thinking, oh, like, you know, I have a pair of boots or pair of, do you call them boots or cleats in Canada? That's an interesting one.
Cleats.
Cleats. Okay, so I have my pair that I'm not going to change right now because I've been kicking well. I feel comfortable in them, so they are my kind of lucky cleats right now. And unless something went terribly wrong, then maybe I would try a new pair. But yeah, so I kind of have that mindset. As long as things are going well,
Yep.
those are the cleats I'm going to wear. I have the same socks that I wear on game day, and I just like to keep things consistent in that way.
Yeah, so that is a resounding yes to that. That honestly, I love that. As someone who grew up playing hockey, who had like all the superstitions in the world, I love that. I love hearing that someone is as crazy as I am when it comes to superstitions in that
Oh
regard.
yeah, yeah,
I love it.
yeah. Now I feel like lucky. I've got my nephew's initials on each boot too. So like,
Oh, there you go.
there's one initial. Yeah, I've got MC for Max Carter on one, and Jacob James on so JJ on the other boot. So they're my nephews. So they're my bit of luck as well on my feet. So
So
yeah.
so up here in Canada, we take our superstitions seriously. There's professionals from Canada that are playing in the States that still have the same hockey equipment from when they're
Yeah,
16.
I remember hearing about this. I think it was like Marc-Andre
Wow.
Fleury's wearing like an iTech neck guard, and they haven't made like iTech neck guards in like at least 10 years. Like something like that. It gets crazy in hockey, I know that.
I bet. Yeah, I get it. It's a bit of comfort, right? It's like it's what you know. It's if it keeps you consistent, then
Yeah.
I don't blame those players. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that goalie won the Stanley Cup, so I mean who can talk? So
There you go.
Okay. So kicking can be a stressful position with a lot of spotlight moments. How do you manage stress and anxiety before and during games?
Yeah, it is a stressful position. I guess I believe I think might be a Kobe Bryant quote, but like confidence does come from preparation, right? And you're not going to take away the nerves, pre-match nerves, or the game-winning kick nerves that are there. But what you can do is manage them and prepare for them. So I believe, my confidence comes from I know I'm prepared. I've kicked thousands of times at this point, and Jake, my holder, and Pete the snapper, like we've got a really good system and we trust each other, and so that confidence comes from that. But really, in the moment, you can't think too much. Like for example, on that kick, my mind wasn't thinking too much. It was just I was almost. You've got to, as a kicker, you've got to want those situations, right? You've
yeah,
got to be prepared for. You've got to want it. And I was on that sideline thinking, let's cut, like, bring it on. Like, give me that kick. And when it happened, just ran out there, didn't think, and just kicked it. Because if I'm too nervous or I'm worried about the outcome, then maybe I shouldn't be a kicker. That's the kind of position we're in. We know that we're going to be under fire if we miss, and also if we make big kicks, people are going to be really positive about us too. So yeah, it can be a stressful position, but yeah, I think I have a calm demeanor anyway. Like I'm confident in what I do. Maybe that helps me being a little bit older, and having been there, done it in different environments, in different sports.
absolutely.
I think's helped me. Yeah.
There you go. Good mindset, yeah.
So the next question is: being a global player, what you bring a unique perspective to the CFL. How do you see yourself contributing to the growth of the game internationally?
This is a good question because I was talking about this today with some coaches, and it's like I would really love to have a big impact with the CFL and especially kickers, and especially with like you said, the global program, because I believe in the UK and in Europe we have a bunch of talented kickers or kickers in the making.
Yep.
We have athletes that have been kicking something since they were 5 years old, and the fundamentals and the principles are very similar to American football or Canadian football, and so they can easily be transferred. Those skills can be transferred. So what I'm hoping to do is
Yeah, I mean it
maybe,
took you 24 hours or 20
well,
minutes.
yeah,
So.
exactly, easy, easy. Uh, yeah, but 24 hours plus a lot of time on those rugby fields. Don't forget that. All
There you
right,
go.
just me and the rugby fields in the rain. So yeah, I would love to have an impact where I inspire others like myself, and then hopefully give a purposeful path. I got into it by accident. If I can help young kids or athletes out of college get an opportunity and give them an actual pathway to the CFL, I think I can be really helpful, and I think I could be really helpful to the CFL in identifying talent. Because I'm going to be in Europe in the off season. I'm going to be in the UK. I'd
Absolutely.
love to be able to identify kicking talent, help train them, and then say to the CFL and the teams, well, here's a pool of kickers that you can look at, rather than guessing and trying to find players. So I would love to have that opportunity to coach some European and global players, and then also offer them to the CFL and help the game grow. Because as long as the global position is going to be there, then we might as well help it grow. So yeah, I would love to contribute in that way.
Absolutely. So, I mean, getting into, I guess maybe your inspirations, because I know you're talking about, how awesome it would be inspiring others, and I think that is an awesome thing to strive for. Getting into, I guess, your inspirations. Are there any CFL kickers, past or present, or even actually, we'll even extend this into the NFL if that works, who you admire or have drawn inspiration for your career?
Yeah, that's an easy one. There's two. I look at like an Edmonton Eskimos player back in the day.
Yep.
Sean Fleming, who was a kicker, won some Grey Cups, made some winning kicks. So I've looked into his history, and obviously he's quite a story and quite an inspiration. And then someone I've met personally, and someone who's been a little bit of a mentor to me this season as well, is Paul McCallum.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hall of Famer,
Yep.
CFL legend. He's inspirational and someone I look up to, one, because of his career, and two, the length of his career. I think he retired mid-40s. And, I'd like to think I could have a similar, age that I kind of tap out as.
Absolutely.
I have goals of being around a long time, hopefully. And so obviously he's an inspiration for that reason too.
For sure. And so I guess we're going to be going in a bit of a different route, and maybe this will be a little interesting. We've gotten some interesting answers for this in the past, but I guess when you're playing professional sports, you're going to be approached by fans, and you're going to be asked to sign something. So, what is the weirdest item, whatever it is, that you have had to sign?
Apart from somebody's forehead, which is quite weird, somebody asked to sign forehead, and I just scribbled on it quickly. Nothing too weird, but I've had someone take off their flip flop and be like, "Can you sign this flip flop?" And I'm like, "Are you sure you want your flip flop signed?" And they're like, "Yes, please." And I sign the flip flop, and they put it back on their foot. So that's probably
There you go.
That's probably pretty weird, but yeah, nothing too crazy so far.
That's fair. I mean, if you're going to be around a long time, we'll have to have you back on in a few years, see if anything's happened.
This is not signing something, but a fan came up to me and she had two babies, twins that were probably 6 months old, and were like, "Can you hold my babies?" And I was like, "Sure." So I just held the twins. I've got a picture of it, and they're both like, one of the babies is poking me in the eye, the other one's like scratching my face. And they got a photo. So that was, instead of a signature.
That's great.
Yeah, so that was a cool moment. That was nice.
that's got to be something. So, and or I guess Rick, you had something.
So since you played both football and soccer, I'll open this to both sports. What's your favorite stadium that you've ever played in?
Oh, well, I think it would have to be in football, and it would have to be. I love the Commonwealth. I do. It has obviously a special meaning to me, being the first CFL stadium I played in, and then I'd say in the CFL, I really do. I mean, you can't beat Saskatchewan's stadium is a really nice stadium, I must admit.
Yeah.
Do you want me to? I feel like you want me to say Winnipeg's and Hamilton's stadium.
Actually, the funny thing is,
you just have to say Saskatchewan. It's okay. I've been there. It's beautiful.
They've got a nice stadium.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it is. It is. I have to begrudgingly admit that it is a beautiful stadium.
I will say congrats, because I was in the game at Harrison when you beat us in Hamilton a couple of weeks ago. So I will say congrats on that.
Thank you. I enjoyed playing there too. It's the Grey Cup's going to be a fun one there.
Oh, before you go on to the next question, yep. Carter, I do have a quick question for you, Dean, because I know you probably haven't seen this. When you were in Hamilton, have you ever seen in your life where you have parking on people's lawns when you go to sporting events. Have you ever seen that before you came to Hamilton?
Actually, I think I have seen it, but I think at games in England because like I'm a Southampton supporter, and I know that people do. So the stadium's right in the city, and so people will allow people to park and charge a fee to park on their driveway. Is that a similar thing in Hamilton, or did people
That
just park where they
no, that's what they do here.
Yeah.
But it seems like the closer you get to the stadium, the more they charge. Like if you're like right across the street, you're charged like $40, but the farther you go, it's the least. I just thought since you're from like the UK, if you've ever actually seen that before, because a lot of fans that come to Hamilton will be like, "Oh, we've never seen anything like when Carter came."
Yeah,
last
I literally,
year,
I text Rick. I'm like, dude, I just parked on someone's lawn. What the hell's going on with Hamilton? I'm like, what is? I'm like, I'm used to like a big lot, and like I like walked up to this guy's house and like handed him a 20. Like I don't know what's going on.
That's brilliant. Yeah, but that's culture, right? That's part of Hamilton. I think that's a cool thing. It's like part of the community, like, and it's similar
Very
with
much, yeah.
soccer back in England. But like, so for the Grey Cup, how's that going to work? Are just cars going to be everywhere, like in everyone's lawn?
so so basically, I don't know if you've walked much around the stadium, but like there's down the street and around the corner, there's like a variety store, there's churches, there's bars that you can park there.
There's everything there.
Just everyone.
I'm about a 15-minute walk from the stadium, and there's cars like almost as parked as far as I am that will go and walk the 15 minutes to get there.
It's
wow.
gonna be a
Oh,
wild
and one other thing. So we do offer shuttle service to the stadium. So we have like 5 city buses that bring fans. So it doesn't matter. People will fly to the stadium if they have to.
Yeah, they'll find a way.
Absolutely.
I think that's interesting.
Absolutely. No, I gotta say this has been an absolutely wonderful time having you on. However, we got one more before we wrap this up, and it's for those who are not aware, I wasn't even I guess aware to this till I was looking through your profile and I was reaching out. Tell us a bit about game day kicking.
I'm glad you asked, and yeah, it probably relates to that question earlier about how I want to impact the CFL. And yeah, so game day kicking is a company that I started in Colorado when I graduated, and again, it was inspired because I wanted to help other kickers have a pathway to playing at the next level. But more so, I was interested in the coaching. I love the coaching side of things. I had to learn kicking from literally the ground up, and every little detail I could find, I'd worked at until I found, my technique. And so I feel like I can pass on that information to young athletes. So I started game day kicking as a way to help them. And originally, obviously, it's in Colorado because that's where I was at the time. So I've been doing clinics and camps and individual sessions last year whilst I was training. And then, yeah, my bigger plan for game day is to sort of be the number one go-to company for kicking coaching when it comes to Canadian football and American football in Europe, and love to be that go-to where people can come to game day kicking and really learn the art of kicking and all the details. So yeah, I'm really proud of game day kicking. It was something I thought I was really going to run with these next few years before the opportunity with Edmonton come up.
Yep.
Now I'm fully focused on playing, so game day is sort of in the background a little bit, but something I'm looking to pick up in the off season and really help other athletes have an opportunity like I have.
Yeah. Well, and I have to imagine, being on the Elks and playing, I have to imagine that probably it, can make it maybe easier to promote it, I guess, in the sense of it's like, hey, I'm over playing football here in Canada and I'm hoping to spread this around. So that probably also, probably helps you in a few ways in getting that out.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, it gives me credibility. It does. It's something that's important to me. I'd never want to feel like I'm I'm lying to people or trying to sell them something.
Yep.
And I'm not. Like, I've been there, done it. I've learned it. And I feel like I can really coach it now. And I have this experience, with the Edmonton Elks that can only help me, and I can only pass on great information to other people now. So, yeah, I feel like hopefully it's really going to help, and help it propel to the next level.
So just a follow-up question for this game day kicking. So if let's just say, because I know there's going to be fans watching this from Canada and US and everything, when you do have your clinics, how can fans reach out to you to take part in these clinics?
So the best way to reach out to me, there is a website, gamedaykicking.com. And then Instagram is at gamedaykicking. And I'll always post when I have clinics on there. I have a couple coming up in the UK over winter. But yeah, I would love to do some stuff here in Canada and provide some clinics here. So when I do, I will be promoting that stuff. It will be on the website. And I'll, if you can follow me on my Instagram, appreciate the followers, but also it's a good place for you to see any information. So if you're a budding kicker out there, or if you're a soccer player that is maybe interested in transferring your skills over, or even a rugby player, like, please reach out to me and send me a message, and I'm willing to kind of help make that transfer.
Yeah, and actually one way we'll make that a bit easier. If anyone's watching and interesting, that will both links to both of those will be in the description down below. So make sure, if you guys are interested, that you guys check that out and reach out to them.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And like I said, if there's any Canadians out there, any Canadians that are not in Edmonton that would like a clinic or a camp nearer to them in another part of Canada, that's not out of the question either. In the off season, we can, if someone wants some work done in another part of Canada, we can make that happen too.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And, it's something that, we're just very grateful to have you on here, and for, you giving your time again, especially during the season, to come and, spend some time for an interview. Thank you so much. So,
yeah, no, I appreciate it. So I say, I'm grateful that you even want to talk to me, or anybody wants to talk to me, or even when a fan comes up and says hello, I don't take any of these moments for granted, because they don't last forever. There's going to come a day when nobody wants to talk to Dean Faithfull. So I'm making the most of it for now, and just enjoying it and making the most of every moment.
Well, absolutely. And actually, it was actually a fan that had reached out to us, wanting to get you on here. And so, we gave it a shot, and we were glad that you were able to come on. A lot of the questions we've had today were from fans, so they'll be glad to hear your takes on it. So, yeah, just thank you so much for coming on. For everyone at home, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you guys follow Dean Faithfull on Instagram. Reminder, links to all that will be in the description below. And, have yourselves a wonderful day.